Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I'm going to do a short live stream this morning. I'm going to try to keep it short because there's some pretty cool things that I want to talk about. And, oh man, it has to do with kitties. And the kitties have been on my mixer and I didn't even realize this. I've been noticing my signals are getting kind of funky and I'm like, why is this happening? I think it's because the cats have been getting on the mixer. They love the mixer. It's warm and it's a place for them to get all nice and warm and cuddly. And I'm like, guys, we have this nice little cushion here I put in the studio for them. They still like the mixer though, and they mess with my settings. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. Really quick, I want to talk about, we got a donation from Mundum. Thank you, Mundum. Very much appreciate it. Much love to you, brother. So tonight we are at 8 o'clock Pacific. We have an awesome guest for you. We're going to do a full live show at that time on our regularly scheduled time on iHeartRadio and on Truth Frequency Radio, tfrlive.com. We're going to start broadcasting more and more there. And the reason I haven't is because our information here on Beyond the Veil is so based around you guys that it's not really for the iHeartRadio audience. It's not really for people that haven't really been following along with the journey. But we're going to start trying to make our Thursday show at least a little broader. And I encourage you to go to tfrlive.com. It's right up there in the corner and check out some of the awesome shows that we have there. I mean, we have everybody from Chris Everard to Brooks Agnew to Mark Sargent, Jaronism, Kev Baker, many hard hitters. Anyways, there has been some energetic shifting going on, and there have been some weird coincidences that I wanted to kind of put out there. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I want to see if anybody else is experiencing this. So, a couple of months ago, I decided, because Cherie has been asking me for years, can we get a couple of kittens? And I was like, I had these 2 Chihuahua Dachshunds. I loved them so much. They were great, Snickers and Skittles. I had them for like 13 years until they passed away. And when they did, they took a piece of my heart with them. And I couldn't go through that loss again. And so there was a lot of years there that I was averse to pets because they take a piece of your heart with them. Like they're basically your kids. I mean, anybody that has pets out there, they're like your kids. And then I put it out to the universe and I said, all right, if we're going to get 2 kittens, we need 2 black ones, 1 long hair, 1 short hair. We're going to name the long hair one Sekhmet and the short hair one Bastet, after the Egyptian goddesses. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go find a black kitten for Cherie. I found out that black kittens, to be female, is actually rare. There's way more black male kittens than there are female kittens. So we got 2 black female kittens, and I thought I'd have to go around and find them from different litters. We found them from the exact same litter. All I needed to do was put one message out there on Facebook, and somebody wrote me in a matter of 5 minutes and said, I've got 2 right here and I'm 20 minutes away from you. And I said, do you have a short hair and a black hair? She sent me the photos and I was like, oh my God, this is ordained by the universe for these kitties to come into our sphere at this time. And what we have found is, as I've talked about before, I've had these dreams, and I always call them dreams, even though they're, most of you would probably say these are real encounters. But I had this strange dream a couple of weeks ago that I talked about where I walked downstairs and there were grays outside and they were trying to beckon me and get me to come outside. And this thing repeated like 4 or 5 times, but there were different scenarios in the background. So the grays were there beckoning me for one reason. And then they were, in another situation, there was a fire and they were like, come on, there's a fire. You got to come out here. You got to come out here. And I'm like, no. But every time I walked downstairs, Bastet was sitting sitting at the glass, at the sliding door, looking out, and almost as if she's keeping the grays away. And then I talked about how instinctively and intuitively I manifested that sun disk, which I have right here. We have the sun disk here. And I manifested this coming out of me, and it was almost like a block. Like, no, I know who I am. This is my divinity coming out in an energetic form, and they couldn't touch me. So that was the experience with that. We do some psychedelics for the first time. And I guess let me back up and let me preface it by saying that these kittens, they have this face. They look older. You really can't see it in the pictures, but when you're holding them like this, they have this face, just especially Bastet, this feature like they're these old, wise kitties. I mean, Bastet looks exactly like the statues of Bastet. And we're like, this is so strange. So we get them, they fall into our laps just like that, almost like they were ready. And when we pick them up, they were ready to go. Like, they did not look back. They didn't look back to mama. They didn't look back to their brothers and sisters, nothing like that. I picked them both up and I was like, you guys want to say goodbye to your mother? And they were like, hell no, let's go. We're ready to go. It was the strangest thing. So we take some psychedelics, and as soon as we do, they both go wild. They both go crazy. I mean, not wild. They just let me rephrase it. They lit up. That's the best way that I can describe it. They lit up, and as we started getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the experience, they both came in on the bed and they sat right there in front of us, and they both started purring really loud. And they turned in the psychedelic realm. Big distinction there. They turned into these little, like, goblin looking things. It was their eyes started spinning 360 degrees like that. Like, all you saw was like a whole bunch of eyes. This little thing came out of their top of their head, and it had like this little like bell or antenna or something. And they were like, we call it their spinning thing. And the thing is, Cherie and I both saw this at the exact same time while this was happening. And the more they purred, the more their little spinning thing was going round and round and round and round. And I was like looking at him going, you guys are little energy conductors. You are here for a purpose. And it was almost like they knew. They were like, okay, it's go time. Let's go. We've been waiting for this ever since we got here. Yes, you are creating the space. We're going to enhance that space for you. And I got to say, that was the deepest experience that I've had up to this point. Well, there was one other deeper one in the pyramid, but that's neither here nor there. Without the use of a booster rocket like the pyramid, this was the deepest experience that I've ever had. I mean, I was able to go into the system, map the system out, see the different dimensions, what lays in the different dimensions, see how the souls are being taken from this dimension. The life force is passed from one dimension to another to another. I don't want to be repetitive. We've covered it in a different broadcast. The broadcast is called What is the Aten? So if you want to check that out, please do. So that's our experience with the kittens. Let me have a sip of mine tasty coffee. So a couple of weeks ago, somebody writes me and says, hey, I just had this kitten show up to my house. I don't know what to do. I said, all right, well, here's what you do. Do this and this and this and this and this. It was a small kitten, and they were trying to feed a tuna. And I was like, no, it's too small for tuna. You've got to go get a bottle, and you've got to bottle feed it. And, apparently it shows you black kitten. Yesterday, this is what made me go, okay, I got to talk about this because there's something going on. Yesterday, another friend calls up Cherie, and she says, hey, guess what? This black kitten just showed up in my garage. And I was like, you're kidding. And she's like, I feel like she's connected to you guys as kittens somehow. Like, I don't know why we call them, your kitten's brother, your kitten's sister. We call her your kitten's sister. And I was like, well, that's really neat. Name her Bastet or name her Sekhmet. What I really like about having these two here is that we're invoking the goddesses every time we call them. Like we say Sekhmet and Bastet probably 100 times during the day. Sekhmet, Bastet, are you hungry? Sekhmet, Bastet, you want to go outside? Sekhmet, Bastet, come on, it's time to come in. All of that. And so we're constantly invoking the goddesses. So I made the suggestion, why don't you name them that? And she turns around and she says, we were all on speakerphone at this time. She says, "No, you already have Sekhmet. You already have Bastet. We need to find a different name for her, a different name from the Pantheon." Now, Brent has a black kitten named Anubis. So we're creating the whole feline pantheon here, and they're coming from the other realms somehow. And everybody feels like they're connected to one another. I'm wondering if any of you guys out there have had any kittens just show up. And if you have, those are very important kittens, in my opinion. Right now, there's something going on, and reinforcements are coming in from the other realm, from maybe their programs. I don't know. I still feel that they're programs. But now that I really have a little more experience with kittens, I mean, I've had kittens all my life. I've had cats all my life, up until about 2004, 2005. But from the time I was a baby, we had cats in the house. But I did a lot of psychedelics. I mean, I did a ton of psychedelics as a teenager, and I never saw any of the cats do a spinning thing like these two are doing. So I mean, we used to trip with our cats all the time and just pet them and everything like that. But I never saw an interdimensional aspect to them. Maybe I've changed, or maybe these are a certain kind of kitten, or certain type of cat that is coming in this particular form. But still, I feel that they're not organic like us, in the sense that they're hooked into a pod in the real world, projecting themselves in. However, now that I'm understanding their ability to do the spinning thing, I'm wondering, is it possible that organic consciousness might have said, okay, we need to go down there. We're limited in a human body. We need to do our spinning thing, whatever that spinning thing is, to create space, to help, etc., etc. So we're going to go in here as a kitten form, because cats have that connection automatically where people typically don't, and they have other abilities to create bigger spaces, and whatever that spinning thing is, they have the ability to do it. I've been wondering that, but I do feel a sense of knowing, as I said, with these two particular kittens, especially Bastet, which was strange because I thought I would connect more with Sekhmet. She's fluffier, she's cuddlier, she's much softer, and Bastet always seemed very standoffish. Like from the very beginning, she's like, no, you can look at me, but no, don't touch. And it took Bastet about 3 weeks to really start, warming up. And now that she does, she'll just come and sit on top of me and prrr. Sekhmet, on the other hand, she's just like so loving. Like she'll go up to Cherie and she'll start just rubbing up against her, and I swear, like almost tears are coming out of her eyes, like tears of joy, like, oh my God, I love you so much, I love you so much. And Cherie will come back and she's soaked over here from tears and slobber that Sekhmet is anyways, I call it the kitty makeout session. She's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, the cat wants to make out with you. There you go. Prrr. It's the cutest thing. But Bastet's always been more standoffish. She's been more like, don't touch me, etc., etc. But so I thought that I wouldn't connect as much with Bastet. But I'm looking at both of them, and I'm realizing that Bastet is the more powerful one. Bastet is the wiser one. Bastet is the one that keeps the greys away. She's the hunter. She's the protector, etc., etc. And there's this sense of familiarity, almost like there are temple kitties from Egypt, which is very strange. It's strange to have this knowing and this connection with these little kittens that's different from anything that I've experienced before. So what I'm wondering is, have any of you experienced that as well? Have you had any kittens show up in your sphere recently? And if so, they are coming from somewhere else. They are helpers that are here for the next phase of this journey, which, excuse me, I want to talk about the next phase as well. So let me have another sip of my coffee. And I want to say hello to everybody in the chat room as well. Lots of love. Dream World sent a donation as well. Thank you, Dream World. You rock. And a lot of the regulars and new people. Twin Flame Divine Fire is in the house. Hello, Twin Flame Divine Fire. And so many more people. I don't want to do the chat room roll call because I hate it when people do that on other shows. I'm like, just shut up and talk about what you're going to talk about. But I do want to acknowledge everybody in the chat room. Thank you for joining us. So, the energetic clearing. There was an eclipse yesterday that is reputed to be the closing of a portal, the portal that was opened August of 2017. This was the big activation point for me. This was when everything changed for me in my sphere, when I really saw what lays beyond the veil, when I really understood who I was. And I know it was a huge shift for a lot of people out there. It was a huge activation point. I mean, it was such a big activation point, and the remembering and the gnosis just flooded in so hardcore that we went to Egypt and did what we did in the pyramid and in several of the temples and opened up more portals and all of that. I mean, it was go time, 100%. So this was supposedly the closing of that portal. I have, however, been looking at different eclipses that are coming up, and I feel that either those other eclipses are another cycle, or perhaps this wasn't the closing of a portal. But the thing is, we've been getting hit with a lot of eclipses lately. We've been getting hit with a lot of blue moons, super moons, super blood moons. I mean, it's been insane what's been going on. It's been, it's lunacy. What's been going on over the last couple of years, because I remember we had like 2 blood moons right in a row. I want to say at the beginning of 2018, and people were talking about this and just all kinds of weird stuff going on with the moon. So there is a big energy shift. But what I have noticed, good morning, Luann. Nice to see you. What I have noticed, Mark is in the house too. Mark 98Z and D Swinger. I'm doing it again. I'm doing the chat room shout outs. Traverse the universe. Osiris Orion. Osiris Orion. Nice. 3D Sound. Brenda, Francis, Rad Riley, of course. She's always number one. She's always the first one to come into the live shows. But anyways, so the energetic shifting. What I have noticed, because this was actually one of the primary reasons this person yesterday called. Not only did she call to say that she found this kitten, but she also called for some spiritual advice, because a lot of things are shifting in her sphere. And I've talked to a lot of people lately, and things are shifting and energies are being removed from the path. And I think it's a good thing. We've received over the last couple of weeks, maybe a month, 3 or 4 emails and comments in the chat as well, asking my thoughts on suicide. And in short, my thoughts is don't do it. Don't do it. Just finish what you came here to do. I know it's tempting to just leave early, but it's just going to be a complete waste of time if you do. Finish what you came to do. Then afterwards, you can go naturally when it's time. Your higher self is going to pull you out of the matrix when you've completed your mission. Let's just put it like that. So, but people are having these thoughts because things are shifting in their sphere. And I've realized that some of the energies in my sphere that are shifting are prompting me to clear the path out and also to improve. So I'll give you a couple of examples, and this kind of segues into the next thing I want to talk about. But with TFR, I kind of let it go on autopilot for about a year. Kind of disconnected, took care of myself, started working out, which is going great, by the way. I hit a little bit of a plateau, and I'm a little bit pissed about it, just because, anybody that's done the fitness thing, you hit the plateaus, and then you got to figure out a way out of it. But anyways, so I worked on myself a little bit, worked on BTV a little bit, and just kind of let everything go on autopilot. At one point, a couple of weeks ago, we had all of these network issues. And I mean network issues as far as like over the server level where the network went out. Then the server company changed our IP address on one of our servers because they had to, I mean, they didn't tell me this, but I suspect that they moved the server to another server and they couldn't change the IP address, or they lost the IP addresses or something. I don't know how it works up on that server level, but they changed the IP address and told us after the fact. And I was like, oh crap, because we have a series of servers that are all communicating with one another. And I didn't have the foresight to program in there, hey, if you can't communicate with this, wait, because they're always supposed to be on. So what happened is the server started sending all these infinite requests, and this system went down, and that system went down, and that system went down. And just because it was just, looking for the other server and it couldn't find it. So what I decided to do was, all right, I need to go back, fix all of this, reprogram everything in a more efficient manner, and account for some of these things that could happen. At the same time, I started to work on this project for TFR that I started working on back in January, but I kind of let go temporarily or put on hold, which was to turn it into a video broadcasting system, just like Beyond the Veil is. So all of the hosts there can broadcast like this, and you can actually see them. And I think it just takes things to a whole new level. And it makes it easy for them. So they can just log on and just, the system takes care of the rest. Because I've been doing this for like 10 years, and it's easy for me to run the mixer, the camera changer, look at different monitors. I mean, I've got 4 monitors here. I've got 2 monitors here, It's easy for me to do that and fix things on the fly, and I can even start talking. Plus, I have Cherie as well. Well, when it's later in the day, she likes to get her beauty rest. So I have all of that, but I understand it's not easy for other people, and it's much easier when you can just focus on what you're talking about. So I started implementing that, and then energy started shifting away, and I realized that by letting go of some of the older energies and reprogramming things, what we're actually doing is improving upon what was there and also letting go of things that are not necessary. I remember Twin Flame Divine Fire wrote me a couple of weeks ago, and he said, why do I keep hearing the word dead code? And I'm like, I don't know. Dead code is code that is in a programming script that takes up resources but no longer has a function. So it's like junk code, but it's junk code that does something, but it doesn't do anything for the output. So let's say you've got a web page and it's loading A, B, C, D, and E. Well, the junk code could be F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and it's loading all of that, but it's not required for what's being outputted. And then I came back and I'm like, oh crap, we got a bunch of dead code in our scripts because things have evolved so much over time. So I went back and I just solidified all of that. But in my friend's life as well, who was talking to me yesterday, she was saying that relationships were falling to the wayside, that changes in her life, and I'm not going to get into any details, but changes in her life were inevitable. And she's like, I know that it's a shifting right now, but it's just so hard to go through. I'm like, yeah, but there's only a certain amount of space. And in order to be efficient, you only have to have what you need. And when you have what you need, then you can utilize what you need that much more efficiently, as opposed to having a million different things to choose from. Like, have you ever been in a situation like you go to a store and you're like, okay, well, I want to get CBD oil. And you go to the internet and you're like, I don't know what CBD oil to get. There's so many choices out there. I don't know what to get. And then you just like freeze up and you're like, you know what? I'm not gonna mess with it. I'm gonna do it later. I've done this more often than not. I mean, I was looking for a new TV the other day and I'm like, there's just too many freaking TVs. Screw it. And it sat in the cart. We're looking at some of these pictures too, that you can make these like custom pictures. And there's so many different choices that I'm like, I don't know. And they've been sitting in my cart for, 3 weeks now because of too many choices, because of too much to go through, too much data to process, aside from what we actually need. Take that on the energetic level now. When we have too much energy that we're working with and being pulled in too many different places, which is something that I fall victim to or subject to. I don't like to use the word victim. I'm subjected to. I subject myself. Let's put it like that. I subject to myself more often than not. I have like 7 projects on the table, and I'm like, all right, which one do I tackle here? You know what? Screw it. I'm going to the amusement park. I'm going to go have fun. There's no reason for it. But all of these energies that are shifting, it's for a purpose. It's to make the next part more efficient. It's to make the next part of your life connect a little bit better. So just remember this. Whatever you're going through in life right now, it's okay. You have to be able to let go of things in order for other things to come into the sphere. And I know it sounds cliche and you hear it all the time, but energetically, there's no way to avoid it. And as a matter of fact, just fighting it, all it's going to do is you're going to cling on to something that's not good in your sphere. You're going to cling on to something that doesn't fit for your next path. And by doing so, you are impeding upon the path and creating more strife for yourself while you go through it. So, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of some examples here. You know, I've got this leather jacket. I love my leather jacket. I've got like 4 of them, actually. That's my thing. Torn blue jeans. I mean, not torn as in like, you know, torn, but I mean like, you know, designer torn blue jeans. Like, they were torn by the manufacturer before they were sent. Black t-shirts, because I don't like to wear anybody's freaking brand on me. I mean, I think this shirt might have a brand here, but it's just an R. I don't even know what R stands for. Because nobody's going to advertise on me for free. If you're going to advertise on me, you're going to have to pay me. That's the way I see it. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. People will pay like $80, $90 for something with a little freaking brand right there. And it's like, you're paying extra to advertise for that company. Don't do it. Have them pay you. They're not going to pay you, but have them pay you if they want you to advertise their brand. And a black leather jacket. And that's my look, you know, with the long hair and all that, that's my look. But as it starts to get warmer, if I was to hold on to that leather jacket and go, you know what, this is my look, this is what I need right now in this season, I'm going to take this with me, I would be hot as hell. And I would be much less efficient when I go outside and go do something because I've got this freaking leather jacket on. Same thing. Sometimes we just got to take it off, put it in the closet for a little bit, sometimes throw it away. I mean, I had to throw away some old pants and stuff like that. I keep my stuff for a long time, and Cherie gets mad about that. She's like, why don't you buy new stuff? You know, and I'm like, well, you know, it's, you find something that works and you keep it. But anyways, so, put it in the closet or throw it away, move through the season. Then when it's time for the next season to come up, then the energies come back together, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we see this in the physical realm, but we are so apprehensive to apply it in the energetic realm, even though our higher selves know that this is what's good for us. Which brings me to my final thing that I want to talk about. And again, I'm going to take another sip of my coffee. This is the one thing I know it doesn't suit me anymore. I know it. I was at the gym yesterday and I'm getting this heart thing. Like I can get my heart rate up to like 95, 100%. Sometimes it goes to 110. And when I first started, I was getting the squeezing around. And this is the plateau that I'm talking about. So I'm getting it back up there to 95, 100% because we're going harder. And I'm getting that squeezing again. And for like 3 weeks, I wasn't getting that squeezing and I was able to take it up that high. Now, of course, you're not supposed to take it up that high and sustain it, but we do like these exercises that are circuits, like lifting this and then doing this and then running on this and then getting on the assault bike and then doing this and doing that and blah, 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 blah. My trainer's freaking awesome. She's very creative and it's cool because she keeps it fresh. But, you know, I'm finding like I'm killing myself after these circuits and I'm like, oh, my heart's going and like my body's like going, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. I'm like yelling to my heart in the gym going, no, I have control over you. You don't have control over me. That's the one thing that I always keep in my mind. I'm like, I control my body doesn't control me. I control my body doesn't control me. And it's worked up to this point of this plateau. But I think this might be the root cause of the plateau. And she's like, have you quit that yet? And I'm like, no, I'm down to 3 milligrams. But that last 3 milligrams, I need to let go. So maybe after this show, I'll make it a point to let go of this too. That way I can practice what I preach and lead by example, but don't hold me to that. It tastes like candy too. That's the thing. She asked me yesterday, what's the appeal? And I'm like, look, I've been on nicotine since I was like 15 years old, but it also tastes like candy. And since I don't eat sugar anymore, this is my sugar fix now. But anyways, so energies, shifting, everything that's going on. So over the last couple of days, well, weeks actually, I mean, it started a couple of weeks ago with network outages and stuff like that affected TFR. I don't know what else was affected. Google did the recent thing, or not Google, Project Veritas did the recent expose on Google about how they're censoring. They've done exposés on Facebook about how they're censoring. There's a lot of Trump is holding a conference or summit, or I don't know what he called it, about social media censorship and collusion and interference with the upcoming 2020 election, because this is what all this is coming down to, is to try to silence people that are pro-Trump and put somebody else in to, quote unquote, this is Google executive speaking here, to prevent what happened in 2016 from happening in 2020. So there were all these network outages yesterday as well. Cloudflare, which is a cloud server company that hosts hundreds of thousands. I mean, I'm just, estimating here, but hundreds of thousands of websites went down yesterday, including TFR, because anything connected to Cloudflare was then bouncing because Cloudflare was down. This was huge. This was almost as big as Google going down or as Facebook going down. Yesterday, Facebook had all of these glitches where images weren't loading. So there has been some rumors and some local news media putting out the idea that today, July 4th, there may be a terrorist attack. And, false flag, whatever you want to call it. But they're circulating the rumor that today they're expecting something. And I thought, you know what? No big deal. I've heard this a million times in my time. There's going to be a terror attack like every 5 minutes. Like every 5 minutes, there's some truther or somebody out there going, all right, it's about to happen now. It's about to happen now. It's gotten less and less and less since 9/11, but I've been in this since 9/11. So I've seen all of it, and that's why I might come off a little jaded. It's because they've cried wolf enough times for me to go, all right, there is no wolf, but there could be a wolf at one point in time. I'm not saying there's a wolf now. I'm not saying that something's going to happen today. I'm just putting pieces together here and the energetic shifts and everything that's taking place. So I posted on Facebook. Let me see if I can get it up here on the screen. I don't know if I set up the second camera properly or not. That's not it, but at least that camera's good. This one here. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so I posted on Facebook yesterday, and I don't know how well you can see that, but it says, rumors of a terrorist attack on July 4th. Heard a million of them. What I meant is that in my time, I've heard it a million times before. But my eyebrow raised when the internet went haywire today. Lots of systems down. Cloud servers, several websites that even websites that tell you if a website is online. Like when all these systems were down, I was going to like isitdown.com and different websites like that and trying to figure out, is it just my internet connection or is it everything? Those sites wouldn't even load because a lot of them are hooked up to Cloudflare. Facebook glitches, Google bugs, etc., etc. Seems fishy to me, like a test to see how systems can be disrupted. How are you guys feeling? Not conspiracy-wise, because I'm tired of hearing about the conspiracies. I've heard it, for the last freaking 20 years. But intuitively, I'm asking on a higher consciousness level, how are you guys feeling intuitively about this? As soon as I post this, literally the second Facebook says, this post goes against our community standards on spam. And I'm like, what the hell is spammy about this post here? It was bizarre. And if I was a truther, I would take this as a reason to be hyper paranoid, and I'd be on here screaming, today there's going to be a false flag, there's going to be a terrorist attack, and tomorrow I'd probably be wrong. But it's more than coincidental, in my opinion, that the mainstream media is putting out the possibility of a terrorist attack today, that all of these systems went down, which in the event of a false flag in 2020, as opposed to 2009, they would need to be able to have an internet kill switch to turn off communications, block certain posts, block images, etc., etc., etc. We've seen enough events in the past where people have posted videos and footage, and that has revealed that the official narratives that they're trying to push have anomalies in them. Or let's put it like this. The videos and images that people have posted show anomalies that are not in the official narrative. So let me just state it like that. Which I suspected. We started working on a film. We had like so many unfinished films that we never released. Crisis Actors, The Evolution of False Flag Terror. Back in 2011, way back when I was like a brainwashed truther. I was still trying to break the programming, but I was still, kind of messed up. There was an evolution, and there was a journey, and the ayahuasca helped so much to really break down the nature of reality, break down the programs, even the truther programs, which you think you're out of a program, but you're actually in another program. So all this is just analysis of the data that we have right here, just to see what's going on. So, Crisis Actors. I wanted to prove back in 2012, 2013 that Crisis Actors existed. So I actually auditioned to be a crisis actor on the phone. I never showed up to the actual audition because I was like, I'm not going that close to the situation. But on the phone, I found a crisis actor studio. We were living in Denver at the time, crisis actor studio, and we talked on the phone about bringing a Shakespearean piece, about bringing a modern contemporary piece, about how the audition goes down, about what type of projects they're working on in the future. It was a very professional exchange and conversation. And one thing she told me, she said they were working on the Syria Chronicles, which I found to be very odd because we didn't hear anything about Syria at the time. As a matter of fact, Assad, his wife, was on the cover of freaking glamour magazines and stuff like that about, oh, look how beautiful she is and look how well dressed she is, etc., etc. So I put the video out, put it on YouTube, forget all about it. About 2 years ago, when that kid who's going around right now, and he's anti-gun, he's like 17 years old or 18 years old or something like that, doesn't know dick from dick. I forget his name, and I forget what incident he was involved in. It was some school shooting or something like that under Obama. But anyways, he was being called a crisis actor, and everybody was being called a crisis actor, and YouTube comes and pulls that video, calls it bullying and harassing, even though all it was a professional audition or discussion on a professional audition to be a crisis actor that showed that the crisis actors are there. They pulled it. We got flagged. This was a year ago, actually. This was right before we went to Egypt. So this was back in March of last year, now that I think about it, because I remember we couldn't live stream on YouTube while we were in Egypt because of this. And YouTube pulled the video. I appealed it, and they reinstated the video. Then they flagged it again, and I appealed it, and I'm like, hey, you guys, I just appealed this, and it just got reinstated. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Essentially, people can flag the same video multiple times, and even if you get the appeal the first time, they can just flag it all over again. Flag, until somebody at YouTube, because I think the appeals process is a manual thing, until somebody at YouTube says, nope, we're going to deny this appeal. So we were banned from broadcasting live on YouTube for 45 days here on Beyond the Veil. So I don't know why I went to that whole... so crisis actors. So I suspected that at the time, after 9/11, because after 9/11, they had to deal with a lot of victims' families, like a lot of them. So I suspected that they instituted crisis actors and started staging events because it's easier to manage. It's easier to manage the flow of information. It's easier to manage the witnesses, especially the ones that are on mainstream media. And they can control the narrative so much more, and they don't have to deal with family members of the people that were killed in these attacks, et cetera, et cetera. Because after 9/11, it was a mess. Like, there was this one lady, and she lost her son during 9/11, and then she went to, it was either Obama or Bush. I want to say it was Obama. And Obama gave her airline tickets to go somewhere, and then her plane blew up, which, you could tell, but she was making a huge, huge fuss about the establishment and asking too many questions about 9/11 and so on and so forth. Here I am getting back into conspiracy mode here. I don't mean to do that, ladies and gentlemen, but this is all kind of relevant to what's going on right now. So you have to be able to control the narrative, and that's what they did. And then I think they realized that they were being called out too much about it because it was so blatantly fake. I mean, there were so many blatant actors, some of them appearing in multiple places, multiple different disasters. But, I remember crisis actors going all the way back to 9/11 now that I think about it, because I remember, and this was before I had woken up to the truth movement, or even to the truth. This was before I went from being me to being in the truth movement. There was a guy on 9/11, and I was watching this live, and you can still find the video on YouTube. And as soon as the buildings came down, it was Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or somebody like that. They were interviewing this guy, and they were calling him a Fox News intern or correspondent or something like that. And he's like, oh yeah, I was standing right there and I saw the whole buildings come down, and they probably came down due to structural failure and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, he had too many details, and he's not an engineer. He's not anything like that. He's just like, it looked like he was repeating this script. And I realized at that point, I was like, that's weird. That seems scripted. David Hogg, yes, that's who I was talking about earlier. Thank you, Kenneth. It seems scripted. And even to this day, Cherie and I were like, hold on, I was sitting on my foot there. I didn't plan this broadcast to go this long. But even to this day, Cherie and I, we make jokes when something happens. We'll look at each other and go, well, it came down probably due to structural failure. So it's kind of like an inside joke between Cherie and I that we've had forever, because especially when we were covering this crisis actor thing, we realized, oh my God, here's one here, here's one here, here's one here, et cetera, et cetera. And they pushed this narrative. So they went back at one point to doing real events and trying to control it, kind of a mixture of the two, crisis actors and actual victims. Like the thing in Las Vegas, I am pretty sure a lot of people got killed there. Why? I don't know. I didn't look into it. I was way beyond that at the time, but that looked pretty damn real to me. So, I'm just reading the chat room here. So, let me have a little more coffee. So, which brings me back right now, today, July 4th, 2019. We have the Project Veritas thing. We have the Facebook thing. We have the social media conference coming up, where they're going to try to figure out what to do about the censorship on social media. We've got the liberals, the Democrats, whatever you want to call them, who have been acting like babies whose pacifier was taken away ever since. Not even babies. I mean, they're acting like the terrible twos. They're just throwing fits, and they've been throwing fits from the moment that Trump got in office. They've been acting. I'm ashamed of how they're acting. It's been really bad. They're pushing all these different agendas, creating all this disruption, fake protests in the streets, blocking people in traffic. I mean, it's like, come on, don't mess with your neighbor because you're pissed off at your government. All that's doing is just pissing people off, and it's working against your cause too. If you're really sincere about that, you don't go block traffic and block people from getting to work. Go do something and protest in front of the White House or something like that. But don't block traffic. That's just, it's just pissing people off and dividing people even more. Because most people are like, hey, I got to go to work. I got this to do. I got that to do. I mean, I remember there was a guy, his wife was pregnant, and they were blocking him and they wouldn't let him go, and he freaking ran him over. Because he's like, dude, my wife is pregnant. I got to take her to the hospital. Fuck you. Anyways, so you combine all this together, plus the rumors that are going out there on mainstream media, plus the internet stuff. If you want to control a narrative for an event that is going to take place in 2020, then you have to be able to shut down communications. You have to be able to flag things through AI, images, keywords, as was shown in this Facebook thing. I don't even know what keyword was flagged here. Maybe it was terror attack. I don't know. I mean, this post here, I don't know what keyword flagged it. Terror attack, Google bugs. I don't know. Maybe conspiracy. Maybe the combination of terror attack and conspiracy in Google. I really don't know. But the AI flagged it somehow for some reason immediately. And Facebook wasn't loading any images yesterday, so people were speculating that they were introducing their AI algorithm. So given all this stuff, plus the energetic shiftings, plus all of this, maybe something's going down. But these are the pieces that I'm looking at and the puzzle that I'm trying to put together just to see the picture. And again, I'm not saying something is going to happen. I'm just saying that things are lining up for the potential of something like that to happen. Plus, as people stated on Facebook, the idea of Mercury going into retrograde. But this does not feel like Mercury in retrograde. Okay, we've had hundreds of Mercury retrogrades and we haven't seen freaking Cloudflare go down, taking tens of thousands of websites down with it. Or if not hundreds of thousands. I'm pretty sure it's hundreds of thousands. Let me see if I can find this out. How many websites does Cloudflare have? 60,000 websites. Okay, so close to 100,000. 60,000 websites that are on Cloudflare, which I'm thinking we probably should take TFR off of Cloudflare. We've seen YouTube glitches on our videos. One of the big things that I've seen is our videos will play for 2 or 3 minutes and then bump the user to another video. I've noticed that videos getting stuck in editing. I used to edit out that first couple of minutes or seconds, actually. I mean, I've tried to minimize this as much as possible, but it says that little screen that says we'll be live in just a moment. I've tried to minimize that because I know when I edit it, it'll get stuck 2, 3, 4 days, etc., etc. We're not the only ones reporting these kind of problems. Even though we don't really cover this kind of stuff, but it's weird because all of the events recently have kind of pushed us back into analyzing all of this stuff. And the last video was about the Project Veritas and basically the state of the country and where we're heading in the world. And people are like, you've fallen into the Trump trap. And I'm like, no, I'm just looking at things from a non-biased perspective as they are. You know, it's not about Trump. It's not about anybody like that. It's about where are we as a world. Trump walked into North Korea the other day. First time a president's ever done that. Epic. Why? Because the previous administration, they wanted to go to war with North Korea. Remember? We were bombarded every freaking day. North Korea has nukes. We got to bomb North Korea, etc., 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 etc. Russia as well. He's good friends with Putin. Before, Putin's going to attack us. They have the Satan 1 missile. They have this. They have that, etc., etc. The Iran thing. They wanted to go to war with Iran. Last minute, they stopped. Why? I don't know. You can speculate on that because I know when I speculate, people get mad. I'll give you my speculation. No, I'm not going to. Anyways, I'm just looking at things for how they are. One thing that I proposed several years ago, because I wrote up like this manifesto. If I ruled the world, what would I do? Just some political talking points and not talking points, but some political strategies just from observing things from a non-biased perspective. One of the things that I wrote in that document was that I would punish corporations for taking their workforce overseas, and I would reward them for bringing their workforce back here to the United States. There also needs to be something done about this housing situation. We have one homeless person for every 8 vacant houses. Something seriously wrong there. I proposed a solution there as well. But the corporation thing, that's exactly what Trump implemented. If you take your workforce overseas, you pay higher tariffs. That caused a lot of industries to bring their workforce back. Some businesses suffered as a result because they were getting cheap stuff from China. But as a whole, the economy boomed. Unemployment went from 6% down to 3%, and I bet you it's lower right now. Let's see. It's 3.6% as of April 2019. I don't know what it is right now, but it's dropping. Why? Because industries have been revitalized. There've been a couple of different things that, as I talked about before, the right to try. Don't mess with people if they're dying. Let them try whatever they want. Now you have legal standing to do so. If you want to smoke cannabis, if you want to do all that, even if you're in a state that deems it illegal, if you have a terminal disease, they can't mess with you. Love it. Great. He made cat and dog meat illegal to sell. And I'm scratching my head going, why the hell hasn't cat and dog meat been illegal? And how much freaking dog and cat meat have I eaten in my time thinking it's something else? Great move. Love it. So, that's just where I'm coming from. Just looking at everything the way it is. Now, and looking at how the establishment has been attacking him, one after another, after another, after another. My rule of thumb when it comes to politics is if you're making personal attacks on someone, especially when it comes to sexual assault claims from 30 years ago, when it comes to attacks on personality, calling people misogynist, calling people this and that, et cetera, what that tells me is that they don't have anything good on Trump, as in like anything solid. That's the way I should put it. They don't have anything solid on Trump. So they have to go for the name calling. They have to go for these personal attacks because he's clean other than that. Like they can't go back and say, hey, look, he went to Haiti and he trafficked a bunch of children and he got a child trafficker out of Haiti and sent a guy who was on the Interpol watch list and Interpol most wanted, who was wanted for child trafficking and different things like that, and sent him over to defend this lady. Then they extradited, or they pulled him back, brought him back here to the United States, and then put them in charge of the Amber Alert system, which is Alert Sense. That didn't happen with Trump. That happened with Clinton. So you can point to Clinton and say, you don't have to say Hillary is mean. You don't have to say Hillary is this and that. You can say, here are facts about why this person is so messed up and what they're connected to. They can't do that with Trump. So it's the best we've got up to this point. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying it's the best we've got. And that's what I kind of pay attention to. Is it a personal attack or is it something factual that you can point to and say, all right, this guy's connected to this guy's connected to this guy's connected to this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that put together leads me to the conclusion that it's possible that Trump is not pushing their agenda, but rather he is not an outsider, because we've seen all his previous political contributions and connections and everything like that. But it really, when you think about it, I mean, he played ball with the mob. I mean, in New York, between 1950 and 2000, at least, when John Gotti was arrested, you couldn't do anything without paying the mob. You couldn't build a building. You couldn't install carpet. You couldn't do anything without them getting a cut. So of course he's going to play ball with the mob, with the mafia. He's going to pay the tribute so he can continue doing what he's doing. I mean, that's just the way New York was at the time. So he probably did that on a political level too. Probably had to grease a few people. Is that a reflection of him? I don't think so. I think that's a reflection of the politicians that he was greasing. So it's business as normal. It's business as usual. I don't agree. I think it's corrupt. But if you think we're going to have a non-corrupt government, I think that's a little bit delusional, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And those who seek power always lead to corruption. However, when power is endowed upon somebody, then it is taken with responsibility. So until we have a system that power is endowed upon people, we're always going to have corruption. As long as we have people striving for more and more and more and more and more. So that's how the game works. And looking at the players on the game my entire lifetime, I've got to say this guy is the least connected and the least corrupt that we've seen. I'm not saying he's not corrupt. I'm just saying he's the least that we've seen. So they're attacking him, plus the internet outages, plus the rumors of a terrorist attack, plus the Google thing, plus the Facebook thing, plus the social media summit, etc., etc., etc. Strategically speaking, you want to have your Trump card. And that's what people will say Trump is. Trump is the Trump card, blah, blah, blah. And he could be. He could come into his second term and then total freaking tyranny, 1984, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not taking that off the table. However, you've got to have your Trump card. And I'm pretty sure that the Soros, Democrats, et cetera, that whole group of people over there have had their finger on a button, waiting to push that button for something. Like, that's how they do it. They'll have this huge plan in the background and initiate it at the snap of a finger whenever it's needed. They've been working on this and setting this up for a long time now. But then they've had all their little pawns in the front, which is like the Black Lives Matter and all these different little protests and stopping people on the freeway, et cetera, kind of, annoying the shit out of people. But then they have their Trump card in the background that they're going to play. And it's very possible that this is a moment right now, because things are coming down so badly, that they're going to play that Trump card. We might see something happen. And what happens if we see something happen today, tomorrow, it's anytime this year? It distracts from the social media summit that he's putting together to try to stop the censorship on social media. It distracts from the Project Veritas thing. It distracts from all of the corruption that has come to the surface. And now all of a sudden, everybody's looking at this new threat, this new enemy, instead of looking at the censorship. And what is the goal after that? What's the outcome? Well, you distract from that, keep the internet censorship and social media out of the consciousness of people. You keep it out of the consciousness of government as well, because now they have something new to focus on. And the end result is 2020. Again, their plan in 2020 to try to bring somebody else in. I'm just connecting pieces here just to see, if they connect, trying to see the picture here. But you can see the logic. You can see the train of thought, and you can see the pieces being set up. And on an energetic level, this is a huge time for change. So you've got all these different factors now all lined up. Boom. Something's brewing, in my opinion. I want to know what you guys and gals think out there. I want to know, number one, have you had any cute kitties show up in your life? Number two, do you feel like something is brewing? Number three, do you think it's just Mercury retrograde? Oh, look, now they're going to say I'm a white supremacist. And number four, how do you feel about the next journey? How do you feel about the next part of the path? On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in and listening to me rant for an hour and try to put the pieces together. Tonight, 8 o'clock Pacific time, we have a fantastic guest. We're going to do the regular Beyond the Veil show. But right now, I wanted to put that out there and get your thoughts. And again, I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying something is going to happen. I don't want anybody to panic or get scared or anything like that. I'm just looking at the puzzle pieces and trying to figure out what the picture in the puzzle is. And if y'all can help me out on that, I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. So, on that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be, and we'll see you even further beyond the veil.